Hello and welcome to the event on why exceptional employee experience matters. My name is Dr. Amantha Imber, and I would love to welcome you. So, employee experience is something that I am so passionate about. Let's say bordering obsessed on. So, in terms of what I grew up wanting to be, I grew up wanting to be a psychologist, which my mum described as being a detective of the mind. But when I enrolled in university and started studying psychology, I kind of assumed that I would become like a clinical psychologist or a counseling psychologist. But I remember in second year uni, I discovered organizational psychology and I completely fell in love with the field. I thought, given how much time we spend at work, like a third of our waking adult lives, around 80,000 hours, I thought, what better cause could there be than to helping people really get more joy and purpose and meaning and satisfaction from that huge amount of time in their lives. So after graduating from university and finishing off my PhD in organizational psychology, I had a few different jobs, none of which I loved, but out of necessity, I guess, because I couldn't find a workplace that I desperately wanted to work for, I started my own consultancy, Inventium, about 15 years ago. And so Inventium is a behavioral science consultancy where we help companies work better, work more productively, and get more satisfaction from the work that they do. And when I started Inventium, I had two goals. So, like, one goal was to do really great work with my clients. But the second goal that I had was to, when I eventually started employing people, was to create the best place in the world that any of my team had ever worked. And that has been a driving goal for me for the last 15 years. And for me, like, when I think about what I would love to see in the world, I would love to imagine a world where every leader like myself has two goals. They'll have their goal around growing their business or doing the thing that is the, kind of functional area of focus for them, or whatever their main business goal is for their organization, and doing that really well. But I would also love it if every leader had the same goal that I had in terms of wanting to create the best place for their team and their staff to work in the whole universe. I think that things would be a whole lot better. For me, what this has meant, having this goal, is that at Inventium, we are in constant experimentation mode. So for me, being a scientist at heart, it's really exciting having my own business because I don't report to anyone. I don't have to get approval from a boss to do weird and quirky and crazy experiments on the team. I can just do it. So we treat employee experience kind of like a science experiment where we'll have hypotheses or problems that we're trying to solve or challenges that we're trying to tackle. We'll design solutions and we'll test them and we'll see how they go. So probably our biggest and highest profile experiment that we've run in recent times was adopting the 4-day week. So you might be familiar with the 4-day week. It certainly gets a lot of publicity out in the world. So if you're not familiar, the 4-day week is employees are paid 100%, so their full-time salary, but they are expected to work 80% of the hours. So 4 normal lengths, 7.5, 8-hour days, but they are expected to produce 100% productivity. So the same outcomes that you would expect from a full-time staff member. And so that's the 4-day week. So back when the pandemic hit, it was a tricky time for most businesses, including ours. And we thought, what better time than to really double down on our employee experience when life is really hard for almost everybody. And we thought, let's give this a go. So we set a bunch of hypotheses and we ran the 4-day week as a 6-month experiment. And at the end of that 6 months, everything that we had hoped for in terms of all our hypotheses had been supported. So engagement, for example, rose from being in the top 10% for our industry of management consulting to being in the top 1%. Stress levels reduced despite the fact that we were living through a pandemic. And a lot of the team were in Melbourne, which was the lockdown capital of the world, where we spent about 260 days locked down. Job satisfaction increased very significantly, as did intention to stay with Inventium, and we hit our financial targets 2 months early. So it was a massive win. So we since made that experiment and that policy, if you like, permanent. So we've been running the 4-day week for 2 years now, and it's been amazing. And I know for me, I would really, really struggle to go back to a normal 5-day working week. We call the initiative Gift of the Fifth because Friday's the day that we take off, with the theory being that if you can do your job in 4 days from Monday to Thursday, you get the gift of time on the 5th day. And I personally think that there's no better gift than you can give your people than the gift of time. So I'm very keen to get stuck into today's conversation and hear about how 3 very amazing and impressive leaders are thinking about employee experience in their own organizations. So it is time for our first speaker of today. And I would love to introduce Sukhjit Singh Purisha, who is the President and Chief HR Officer of Kotak Mahindra Bank, which is one of the largest banks in India. So he's going to be talking all about how he sees delivering exceptional employee experience within the bank. And I'm sure that you'll have plenty of questions. So if you do, pop them into the Q&A function.